never going to remove gender from gender-based violence. And it's not because I hate men, and it's not because women can't be abusive, but because words mean things, numbers mean things, and the harm is not distributed evenly. When we blur the difference, we hide the cause. When we hide the cause, we fail the people getting hurt the most. And I'm not here to erase male victims or women harmed by women, right? Abuse can come from anyone. And if you're living through that, you deserve help, full stop. I'm just saying out loud what too many of us tiptoe around. Gender-based violence is called gender-based violence because it's violence driven by gendered power and norms, and it disproportionately targets women and girls. That's the definition used by global health and human rights bodies. It isn't a vibe. It's a category with root causes in inequality and power. I'm Lisa Sonni, a toxic and abusive relationship expert and certified coach, and I help women see what's really happening, get emotionally healthy, exit abusive relationships, and heal. And if this is hitting, subscribe because I do not sugarcoat and I won't waste your time. Back to the point. I used to make gender-neutral content. I used to hashtag abuse knows no gender on almost all of my videos. And I get why it's tempting, right? It feels fair. It avoids backlash. But I stopped because it wasn't accurate to the patterns that I saw in clients or patterns that we see in the data, right? Global reports show that women are disproportionately harmed, especially in the most severe ways. For example, year after year, the majority of women killed are killed at home by partners or family. In 2023, approximately 51,100 women and girls were killed by partners or relatives. Roughly 60% of all female homicides. Home is still the most dangerous place for women. And that's not ideology, that's numbers. And when we zoom in on non-fatal abuse, the pattern stays the exact same. Both men and women can report some form of partner violence, but the severity, injury, fear, and coercive control are just not the same. The CDC's large US surveys show women bear more injuries, more severe impacts, and much higher fear from intimate partner violence than men. Now that difference matters because who got hurt, how badly, and under what pattern is the point. It's not who threw a slap once. Coercive control, right? That strategic patterned domination that actually traps a partner. It's been studied for decades. Evan Stark called it exactly what it is. It's an entrapment system. Michael P. Johnson's research separated this run-of-the-mill conflict from intimate terrorism, the ongoing control pattern that is overwhelmingly male to female. Women can be violent, right? That's not controversial, or at least it shouldn't be. But the control through terror style of abuse disproportionately comes from men toward women. That's why taking gender out of the analysis is crazy. I will never do it. You will never catch me removing gender from gender-based violence. It's wild to me. So let's talk about what men are more likely to do as perpetrators, right? Commit coercive controlling violence, cause more injury, use sexual violence, and escalate to lethal violence. Globally, a large share of women are killed by intimate partners. In the US, over half of female homicide victims are killed by a current or former male partner. That's not men are monsters. That's worst case endpoint of the gendered pattern is overwhelmingly male on female. CDC said that. Now, what are women more likely to do when they're abusive? Sometimes bidirectional or situational violence during conflicts, still harmful, right? Still serious, but less likely to present as long-term coercive control or coercive domination of a male partner. Again, not never, but just so much less likely. Injury patterns, fear patterns, and homicide data bear that out, right? And the British and EU data also show that women are more likely to experience repeated, severe partner abuse. Don't flatten the map just because some of the roads go both ways, right? Let's talk about the derail. Every time women talk about this, and I know because I talk about this all the time, some clown jumps into the comment section with, but what about men? And I get it, right? You care about male victims. Good. Care loudly. Build services, fund hotlines, create channels. I'll amplify them. But crashing into women's spaces to recenter men is not advocacy. It's whataboutism And false equivalence. It's a red herring, right? Switch the subject, stall the conversation, and then call women biased for staying on topic. If feminists had the power to silence men, are you kidding? We would use it to stop men from abusing us, not to stop you from talking on the internet. Also, men's talking isn't harmless when that talk is radicalization. There's a documented overlap between online misogyny and violent extremism. Incel forums, male supremacist ideology, and those far-right pipelines. Government-adjacent and academic bodies have been naming this for years. The OSCE published on the linkages. The ICCT and McCain Institute have briefed on male supremacist violent extremism. Newer reviews show correlation between hostile sexism, extremist support, and domestic violence. Words can be like gasoline. And pretending this is just free speech, it ignores what those words are grooming boys and men towards. Now, the messy part. The female manosphere. Yeah, there are women who platform anti-feminist talking points and call it the truth, right? Pearl Davis is the big example. Everybody knows her, right? Openly anti-feminist and has basically argued that women shouldn't vote and that divorce should be illegal. You can decide how serious she was or whether she's just asking questions. But my take is when a woman sells women's subordination back to women, that's internalized misogyny dressed up as common sense, right? She cherry picks data, she erases coercive control, and flatters men who want power without accountability. Platform incentives reward outrage, right? Accuracy is actually completely optional. Don't confuse a woman said it with it's good for women. If you're about to comment, but women abuse men too, yes, I just said that. And they deserve services and serious research. It's relatively understudied, and partly because it's less severe, less injurious, and lethal patterns hit women harder and draw a lot more urgent attention. That's like a triage problem, right? It's not a denial of men's pain. It's that women's pain is so prevalent and so heavy that we're all distracted. But we're distracted because we need to be. So build the evidence base, right? Don't hijack ours. Now, here's the personal part. When I was gender neutral, I got applause from people who wanted me to be palatable, right? They wanted that more than they wanted me to be accurate. And the more I worked with women, the more I read the research, the less honest that felt for me. So honestly, I picked a lane. I'm a women's coach. And that doesn't make me biased. It actually makes me a specialist, right? Nobody yells at a men's fitness coach for hating women because they don't train both sexes. No one calls an oncologist biased for specializing in breast cancer instead of prostate cancer. Every business has a target audience. It's normal. It's actually how we do better work. But while we're here, let's name the fallacies that get thrown at me and women like me who speak about this online, right? Whataboutism is changing the subject to avoid accountability. False equivalence, pretending a slap is a pattern of domination and homicide risk. Straw man, Lisa says men are evil. No, I don't. I'm naming patterns, just screaming into my comment sections that I'm biased, right? It's attacking the messenger's character to avoid the message. Tone policing. If you weren't so angry, you'd hear this message better. We're angry because women keep getting killed and told to smile about it, and I won't do it. There's another thing underneath all of this, right? Respect. So many men say that they want respect, but what they mean is compliance. Respect to them often means don't criticize, don't say no, don't have boundaries. And because a lot of men were never allowed to be human about their feelings, they confuse criticism with humiliation and a boundary with betrayal. Now that emotional literacy is tied to rigid masculinity norms, and it all shows up as aggression. We have research on how this rigid, like man box beliefs correlates with violence and harm. And if you want respect, earn it. If you want safety, don't require obedience to feel loved. Now I'll end with this. When men are hurt by one woman, too many decide to hate all women. And then they build these communities around that hate. When women are hurt by men over years and by more than one man, we don't organize to harm men. We become cautious around them. We warn our friends, we leave, we hide, we start over. One of these reactions attracts boys and men into pipelines that end in harassment and violence, and the other tries to survive. The difference is why I will never pretend that harm is symmetrical. So no, I will not remove gender from gender-based violence. The term exists to keep us honest about the cause and the impact. And if you genuinely care about male victims, Create resources for them. I'll never stand in anyone's way doing that, but you do not get to bully women out of telling the truth about our lives. Good luck bullying me into doing this differently. If this helped you name what you've lived through, or it gave you language to push back on those not all men derailers, hit subscribe. And if you're a woman who needs straight, practical support to get out and get well, book a private coaching session with me or sign up for one of my group coaching programs. We're going to make you a plan that you can actually do. Hit subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss the next video.